Welcome into WildUte University. I am your dean, the WildUte. A crazy, crazy episode on tap today. The ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference. Are they eyeing the Utah Utes, my alma mater, Utah? You know what? We're going to look at that today. We're going to examine it, and I'm going to tell you exactly why that is not going to happen. But first, if this video adds value to you, please like it. Leave a comment at the bottom. I read the comments. We can have a chat about it. And also consider subscribing to the College Football Mafia channel. Let's get into it. No more further ado here. So speculation has ran rampant over the last few days here. And largely, it was driven by a tweet last night by Dick Weiss. And the tweet, in summary, says, hey, there's speculation about the shifts in college sports, changing landscape. We all know that. And there's discussion about Utah, the Utah Utes, possibly moving to the ACC, and suggestions that it's actually a good fit for ESPN. Having Utah in the ESPN footprint adds value to the ACC and the network. However, skepticism exists regarding the stability and the attractiveness of the ACC versus the Big 12 Conference. We're going to largely get into that today. But before we move on here, do note that actually 10 months ago, before Utah jumped into the Big 12 Conference, that there was actual real smoke about Utah joining the Atlantic Coast Conference. This was last year before Cal and Stanford and SMU had joined. But we're going to go back in history here and look at a Ross Dellinger tweet. You can look at the date stamp on this tweet. It's back in August of 2023. But Ross Dellinger reported that, as reported last week, ACC explored adding 5 Pac-12 schools: Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, Stanford, and Cal. A meeting last Friday was held for a potential vote, but before it could happen, 3 of the 5 joined the Big 12 Conference. The Big 12 Conference there, so that Big 12 lifeline, the invites by Brett Yormark, caused these Pac-12 teams to jump over before the ACC could even vote on it. There's all type of complexities with this too. Would Florida State even signed off? Would Clemson have signed off on ads from the Pac-12? Who knows? But given the recent information we've seen with them, maybe not. We just don't really know. But at this point last year, in August of 2023, the ACC was heavily interested in adding the Utah Utes along with these other Pac-12 schools. So that was real information. Utah decided to join the Big 12 Conference in addition to Arizona and Arizona State. That's just a fact. That is an absolute fact. But now let's move on here and let's really examine what the Big 12 offers versus the ACC. Okay, so we're going to look at some information. This information was actually presented a few weeks ago during a College Football Mafia live show, information that I had put together here. I have a financial background, and really what this sums up is over the next 10 years, the expected cash generated by the Big 12 versus the ACC. And the ACC is without Clemson and Florida State. Clemson and Florida State will leave in the ACC. We all know that. There's going to be either a settlement. There's going to be some way they're going to get out of the conference. They're not going to stay in the long term. ACC cannot depend on the cash from those 2 schools generated from those 2 schools continuing into the future. So in any analysis we're looking at, Clemson and Florida State are out of the picture. And the numbers are adjusted based on the viewership percentages they bring too. So let's take a look at the money and the cash flow. So from 2025 to 2030, the current Big 12 contract goes. The average payouts are around $32 million a year. Made a quick assumption that that money increases by only 4.5% per year after the current Big 12 deal runs out. Then you can see over the course of the 10 years of the contract value that the Big 12 would be getting, it equates to a present value of around $332 million. So that's how much the Utah Utes would be getting, if we apply this to Utah, $332 million from a Big 12 contract. Now let's look at the ACC contract too. The ACC contract without Clemson and without Florida State. So there's some adjustments in here, some estimates that are reasonable. Go back to the live show a few years ago, the ACC doomsday scenario. Take a look at that. Break it out better than anybody else out there. But check it out. So over the course of the expected ACC contract without Clemson and Florida State, you're looking at the total value of all that contract is around $293 million. for each existing ACC school. And factored in there is the money that Stanford, Cal, and SMU bring to the table. So you can see in the first 2 years of the ACC contract, Cal, Stanford, and SMU are bringing about $5 million more per school to the ACC contract. Utah wouldn't be getting access to that money. Utah would be coming into the ACC. They wouldn't be getting Stanford, Cal money. So it would be less money than even showing right there. But their existing ACC team is getting around $293 million in total compensation over the course and the life of that large contract they have from 2025 up to the 2035, 2036 season. So you can see here that the Big 12 actually is going to be paying out more money than the ACC. So from Utah's perspective, first off, why would you accept going over to the ACC for less money in the long run here? In the 10-year period examined, the ACC without Clemson and Florida State is paying out less than the Big 12. So first off, it doesn't make sense from a financial perspective. The Big 12 is paying out more money. This doesn't even factor in the increased travel costs with going cross country for most of your games. So really big win for the Big 12 right here, and just evidence that the Utes are going to want to stay in the Big 12 for financial reasons. Now let's move on to criteria 2. Let's look at the matchups here. So historically, looking at Utah playing all of the existing ACC schools, including SMU, Stanford, and Cal, Utah's only played football matchups 37 times versus ACC schools historically. 37 times in its history. Very, very small history there. Not much to bring to the table. On the other hand, look to the right side of the screen, Utah versus the Big 12. Gosh, Utah plays Arizona, Arizona State, and BYU and Colorado all the time. It's within the regional footprint. And if you add up all the matchups for Big 12 teams, you've got 274 football matchups, total football matchups, 274 versus 37. You've got so much more history with Big 12 schools. You've got history with TCU. You've got the Holy War with BYU, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado. That's a no-brainer. You want to play schools that you know that are in your geographic footprint to get your fans excited. There's no juice there. Utah and the ACC, no juice at all. So the Big 12 gets a huge check mark and win as far as matchups go, and just excitement factor for football games in particular. The last criteria we're going to look at to see if Utah indeed would choose to jump over to the ACC is really the travel strain. So you can look here geographically on the map, top left, that's where the Big 12 conference is. That's the locations of all the Big 12 schools and approximation there. You can see they're mostly in the mountain region, in the Midwest, with a couple to the east side, with Central Florida and West Virginia. But really largely concentrated in the heartlands. And so travel-wise, that is a much easier sell than going cross-country for most of your games like you would be in the ACC. Bottom right, you can see where Utah's located versus the ACC footprint. Of course, Cal and Stanford, you're nearby Cal and Stanford, somewhat close to SMU, but most of the games you're playing are going to be over on the East Coast. So you're going to be adding a ton of travel costs and a ton of issues with just all those miles and the mental health things that will pop up because of traveling so much to play opponents that are way on the East Coast. So this makes no sense based on travel. The travel strain is something serious, guys. So really, Utah is a much better fit in the Big 12 because of travel issues. So check it out. Check it out. We've looked at the finances. The Big 12 checks off the financial box because we're assuming that Clemson and Florida State are out of the conference. You're not going to get those type of revenues. So Big 12 wins financially. Big 12 wins matchup-wise with an emphasis there. Then also from a travel strain perspective, the Big 12's winning again. So there's 3 big factors right there that just tell you that Utah to the ACC, while there's speculation swirling right now, it ain't going to happen. It is certainly not going to happen. Utah's staying in the Big 12 conference. So that is it. Don't look for Utah to be making any move to the ACC anytime soon. And again, if this video was of value, please like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Class is dismissed.